report. Hanging at the fish report. Hanging at the fish report. Hanging at the fish report. For your latest news in high school sports, tune in to the fish report. Don't need no bed, don't need no pull. When you tune in to the fish report. Hanging at the fish report. Hanging at the fish report. You got Craig and TK and Head D tuned in at the fish report.
Coming to you live from Studio F in Russia, Ohio. It's the Fish Report Live Show with your hosts, Craig Fissinger and Ken Francis.
Tune in to the fish report.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Fish Report Live. I'm Craig Fissinger. That is Ken Francis. Thanks for joining us. Back in our sound room tonight, it's TK and Heavy D. We'll talk to them a little bit later in the show. Out in Studio R, it's Covey and Kearns. Going to check in with them. And Ken took a week off last week for the holiday. Ready to get after it, though, in 2018, aren't we?
Yes, we are. You know, Craig, happy holidays to all of our big listeners out there tonight. Appreciate you tuning in. 2018, Craig, is going to be a great year, and we're going to start it off with none other than the team doctor of the Fort Loramie Redskins, and that's Dr. Shelden Wical. Really looking forward to talking to the good doctor. He's a 1973 Jackson Center alumni. We're at Jackson Center. He played basketball, baseball, ran track and field. But today, Craig, he's most notably known as being the trainer of the Fort Loramie Redskins. You see him on the end of their bench every game, and he's really part of the team and the program over there. Really looking forward to talking to him here in just a few minutes.
Yeah, a couple of big rivalry games coming up this weekend. Got the Fort Loramie Russia boys playing on Friday night. The girls are doing it on Saturday, so looking forward to talking about that. And speaking of those rivalry games, that's the subject of tonight's poll question.
Absolutely, it is, Craig. And it's kind of an unusual circumstance for Shelby County League for the boys to be playing before the girls. Typically, the boys are lagging a few days to a week behind the girls' schedule, but in this particular case, it's not. The boys are tipping it off Friday night, followed by the girls on Saturday afternoon, Craig. And who wins these games? Does Russia win both games? Does Loramie win both games? Or does Russia win a boys' game and Loramie a girls' game and vice versa? So we're asking our listeners out there tonight, 4 options for you to pick. It'll be interesting to see what our viewers are saying tonight, Craig. Nonetheless, Craig, we know Fort Loramie Gymnasium is going to be packed. It's going to be a great atmosphere for both games, and really looking forward to them.
Yeah, fun weekend. Not much to do with this cold weather, but you get in the gym there, and there's a lot of ball to watch. So looking forward to that. If you're watching us on the Fish Report Live page on your computers or on your phones, you can scroll down, help us answer tonight's poll question, and check the results. If you're watching us on NK Telco, we'll go back to TK for those results at the end of the show. All right, Ken, well, let's get things started talking some girls basketball, and kind of at the midway point here right now. I know Russia plays their game on Thursday night against Fairlawn. That's game number 11 of their 22-game schedule. Got a couple league games to go before they get to that first round. But since we're at about the halfway point, let's look at the standings and see where we're at.
Well, Craig, Russia and Fort Loramie sitting there at the top on 4-0 apiece. Russia 8-2 overall. Started out the year 8-0, Craig, but they've lost back-to-back games to probably the best Division 4 girls team in the state, and that was Minster, and one of the best Division 3 teams in Ohio in Versailles. So two losses there in a row for Coach Timmerman, but he'll rebound, I'm pretty sure, on Thursday night when he takes on the Fairlawn Jets. Fort Loramie, even with the Raiders, on 4-0. Anna, Jackson Center, they've split their 4 games, and followed up there by Bockens, Houston, and Fairlawn. And Craig, I think Bockens is going to have a little say-so to do what's going to happen in the Shelby County League before it's all said and done. They're sitting at 2-3 in the league, pretty much out of league contention, I would think, for a title. But don't count them out. I think they're going to win some big games yet before this season's over.
Yeah, your fifth place team is 6-4, so 70% of your teams in the league are have winning records. That's not too bad,
right?
But yeah, I know Coach Timmerman for Russia, Coach Siegel over there at Loramie. They're not talking about Saturday's big matchup yet, and that's because they got a couple games coming up Thursday. Of course, we're media, so we can talk about that kind of stuff, and we're looking forward to that. I do want to go out to Studio R, out to Covey and Kearns, and ask them, they do have those couple games coming up Thursday, Russia and Loramie. Can they win those games and set up that big SCAL showdown on Saturday? I want to know, guys, who's your pick to win those games on Saturday, that girls game on Saturday? And I know you got a chance to watch the Versailles Tigers last Saturday at Russia as well as Minster the week before. Want to get your thoughts on that as well.
Well, I think the Russia Raiders definitely have a greater chance to win than Loramie because Russia's got to play Fairlawn. Granted, Fairlawn has 3 wins. They're improving from last year, but this Fairlawn team's still in the rebuilding process. But Loramie's going to have a tough game with Jackson Center. Jackson Center beat them twice last year. Jackson Center's down. They haven't been scoring a lot of points. They've scored 19 and 13 points in the last couple games, respectively. So I think the Raiders are going to have a little easier road here to win. But Loramie, I think, will win over Jackson Center, too, and set up a good showdown.
Yeah, the Saturday game will be a great showdown for sure. I think Russia, like you said, with Fairlawn not having many wins this year, it'll be a lot easier game for them than Jackson, especially with a team like Jackson. You know, any team out of Jackson, boys or girls, whatever, they always give you fits on defense, especially. And with the inexperience that Fort Loramie still has, they got a lot of sophomores playing, so that might give them a little fits. But I think they'll win Thursday and set up a great game for Saturday.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go with the Redskins winning on Saturday. I like the depth they have. I think their depth is going to be an X factor. But I think Russia's X factor is going to be the play of Larissa Poling. She's struggled the past few games against Minster and Versailles. Facing Courtney Pranger and the Winter Sisters was really tough on her. But I expect her to have a big game, but I expect the Redskins to win. And this game, whoever I think comes out as the winner will be the number 1 seed at the Sydney Sectional come next month.
Yeah, I'd agree they're the number 1 seed, but I'll have to go against you. I'll pick Russia just with the experience that they have with beating them 3 times last year, especially in the sectional finals in tournament. I think Russia, the way that they play, and especially with you said, like Larissa Poling, she's going to have to play good. She's been shut down recently by those Big Mac teams. You know, they can really put great defense on you. But, yeah, she's going to have to come out and play well and use her height to her advantage and really get some good post up. And also with the guard play, they're going to have to move the ball and give her great looks. But I think if the Raiders just play their game and get Larissa Poling the ball, they'll win it.
Yeah, and the Versailles Tigers, as we were talking about earlier, they put on a really good show against Russia Saturday. All 12 of their girls scored. Haley McWadowny, I know, led them with 9. But a lot of their starters didn't even have to score. A lot of girls came off the bench and scored, so they can go really deep. Jackie Stonebreaker is a very good coach. She knows how to find teams' weaknesses and go after them, and that's why she's been so successful in her tenure there at Versailles. But I can't wait for Versailles and Minster to play, I know, because both those teams just have great depth.
Yeah, both those teams, they're definitely the top 2 teams to watch, probably in this area, let alone just the MAC. But both teams have great depth. Both teams have reloaded from last year, I think both went to the regional finals, and they're just reloaded just as good, maybe even better than last year. So I think their matchup's coming up here pretty soon, and that'll be a great game to watch, especially Versailles. I know, like you said, they had all 12 girls score. That's a lot of depth right there, knowing that all 12 girls can score, and especially with Minster, too, with the D1 commit, Courtney Pranger. You know, she's tough to stop, but that'll be a fun one to watch for sure.
Yeah, and I'll be interested to see when Versailles plays those bigger games against teams like Minster. It's going to give them more of a challenge if Coach Stonebreaker will cut her bench down to from 12 players to about 10 or 9 players. And I think more of their main players like Cami McWadowny or Lindsay and Danielle Winter didn't even score as much as they usually did. I think the Raiders did a great job on those guys in particular, but Versailles is just so balanced that it's just hard to stop them.
Yeah, just with all the names that you see, I mean, there's all the seniors right now. They've been playing since maybe their freshman year when they won state. They just know how to win and they know how to execute when they need to. Like Cami McWadowny, she's been a leader on that team for when they won state in the fall for volleyball and now on the basketball court. You know, they're not fazed by anything. They really know how to play basketball.
That's all we have from Studio R. Back to you guys.
All right, great stuff there, guys, and thanks for that. So Saturday's game, Covey picking the Redskins and Kearns picking the Raiders.
Yeah, it'll be a good one. We got a split decision over there with Covey and Kearns, but that just shows you right there. Pretty balanced attack. I know Coach Timmerman, Coach Siegel, they're both going to have their kids ready to play, and it'll be a good one.
All right, Ken, well, let's talk a little boys, SCAL boys, and not quite at the halfway point for them, about a week behind the girls. Let's look at their standings, though, and see where they're at.
Well, Russia, Craig, right now at 5-0, sitting atop the Shelby County League standings. Fort Loramie, even with them in the loss column, they're just a half game back here at 4-0. And a very good basketball team this year, Craig, sitting at 3-1. And then Jackson Center, Botkins, Fairlawn, and Houston rounding out the bottom half of the league standings there, Craig. Very competitive league, very good balanced league again this year, Craig. You look at those overall records and, they're winning a lot of games. I think this showdown Friday night, Craig, between Russia and Fort Loramie is going to be a great basketball game.
Yeah, 3 games coming up there on Friday night. One team that's not playing, of course, is the Bakkens Trojans, and I couldn't help but notice this past weekend that they had a game against Ridgemont that they won, and they had a couple freshmen, Tyler Free with 24 points and Zane Paul with 20. So, 4 and 5, they're not catching anyone's attention right now, but they look like a team that could be good down the road.
They're not a bad team. Craig saw them play at Bakkens earlier in the year. Russia handled them, but the game was never really totally out of reach, and Bakkens hung around all night. They're going to be one of them teams, Craig, that continues to get better and better. Actually mentioned them early in the season before the year even started about what a great junior high program they had, and these freshmen, Craig, are starting to mature. So Coach Cardano at Russia, though, he's got his team playing very well. They're at 5-0. Coach Britton over there at Fort Loramie, 4-0. They got a dynamic basketball team this year. They've got Bronze, Burnings, Seagulls, Brandewies, Rattermans. They got all the Fort Loramie names, the traditional names over there in Fort Loramie basketball. Great basketball team, Craig, and they've pretty much been blowing everybody out this year, and they've got some nice quality wins. So Ruscia's going to have to come into Fort Loramie. They're going to have to play a great basketball game. Coach Cardano is going to have this team really jacked up, have to come out with a lot of intensity and to match Fort Loramie's intensity, because I guarantee it's going to be there.
Yeah, we've been talking about it for the last month. Loramie was going to have to. They were going to get to this stretch where they had these good games, and they so far so good. They beat a good Bethel team last week, and they got Russia coming up yet. They got that game at Versailles coming up next Tuesday, a Division III team, of course. They got Flying to the Hoop game coming up, but again, so far so good. What I wonder is what kind of Russia team we see. Do we see the team that lost that big halftime lead to Arcanum here a while back, the team that couldn't match up to the size maybe of Minster, or do we see the team that rose to the challenge against the Anna Rockets, a Division III team, and beat a very good team in league play?
Anna, Craig, is a great basketball team. Russia played a great game that night, knocked off the Anna Rockets. So anytime, Coach Cardano, he's going to have his kids ready to play against Fort Loramie. He had them ready to play against Anna, and they rose to the challenge. And, I think they're going to come out. They're going to have to match Loramie's intensity. Like I said, I think it's going to be a great basketball game, and, really excited to watch it on Friday night.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's going to be the place to be on Friday night. I actually just tweeted out a few minutes ago a picture of the gym last year at Russia, and it was packed, and it got a comment from Brad Turner, a coach over there at Fort Loramie. He said, I don't know if people realize it, but that was the JV game where the gym was packed at the JV game. So this game, of course, at Fort Loramie, a little bit bigger gym over there, but I'm sure the stands will be full on both sides.
Well, it's going to be awful cold outside, Craig, but I think it'll be pretty hot inside.
No doubt about that. All right, well, listen, let's take a short break, but when we come back, we're going to talk some more basketball, including a guy that's going to have a front row seat for both those big games this weekend. Stay right there.
My father said it's time to be home, man, but don't go and tall in the motherland. If you were born with heart, raised on pride, this vinegar runs through your bloodline.
And welcome back to the second half of Fish Report Live. Before the break, we were talking some SCAL girls and boys basketball. A couple big rivalry games coming up this weekend between the Fort Loramie Redskins and the Russia Raiders. The boys, of course, on Friday night, the girls on Saturday. And one guy that's going to have a front seat for both those games is our next guest. He is the team physician. We're happy to welcome to the show now Dr. Shelden Wical. Doc, welcome to Fish Report Live, and thanks for joining us.
Good evening, gentlemen. Pleasure to be here.
Listen, glad to have you. Actually got an opportunity to meet you for the first time last year during that big sectional final game over there at Pickwill between the Redskins and the Raiders. I know you said you watch the show a lot, and you're just the second doctor we've ever had on this show. We typically interview athletes and coaches. I actually had Dr. Sonny Olding from Minster on the show a couple years ago. So, you're the team physician over there. Give us your background a little bit. I know you're a Shelby County guy, but you actually moved to Fort Loramie. How did you end up in Redskin country?
Well, the only thing I ever wanted to do in life was be a physician, and I had the opportunity at the age of 39 to go to Erie, Pennsylvania to medical school, and then from there on to Columbus to do my family practice residency. First practice was in Lima, Ohio with Lima Memorials Group. And about 8-9 years into that, we decided for family reasons to move to Loramie. Allison Frilling, who many of the listeners may know, is our oldest daughter, and she and her family are living here. So Mom and Dad picked up and moved to Fort Loramie, and I had been a team physician, about 10 years at that point, first 2 years at Jonathan Alder, and the 8 years subsequent to that at Lima Central Catholic. And I walked over to Fort Loramie to the high school and offered my services. They didn't really believe me at first that I would do such a thing for nothing, but that is the case. And fortunately, this is my 9th year now at Fort Loramie. I've done about 2,400 games altogether in my career, and just short of 1,400 of them at Fort Loramie.
Well, that's a lot of games, that's for sure. And Doc, I want to ask you, it seems like today there's more injuries than maybe back when I was playing or you were playing. I don't know if that's true or not, but what kind of injuries do you see the most of nowadays that maybe we didn't see so much back then? And is there anything that athletes can do to prevent those type of injuries?
Yeah, you're actually very correct in that. We still see the simple things, the sprained ankles, the jammed fingers, the shin splints that we saw and we've seen forever. But we're seeing a lot more major joint injuries, knee injuries, hip injuries, shoulder injuries, and a lot of that can be attributed to the single sport athlete that is developing, unfortunately. When an athlete plays multiple sports, they tend to develop muscle groups better, and therefore they become actually a stronger athlete. And the focus on one sport is really leading to a number of injuries that we maybe didn't see in the past. And, of course, concussions are becoming more prominent. I don't know that they're necessarily more prominent. I think it's just that we're more aware. There was a time when we were playing that a kid got his bell rung and nobody thought twice about it. Well, that's a concussion. So now we're more aware of that, and we tend to be a little more attentive to it.
Well, Doctor, that's a great explanation on that. I really enjoyed the answer there on the multiple sports things there. But anyways, this is Ken. I appreciate you being on our show tonight. And I've got a few questions for you. And one is, most Shelby County fans probably don't even know the name of their own team physician. However, with you, Doctor, we know you. A lot of people know you, and that's a lot to do with you're very active on Twitter. We love following you on Twitter. What is it that you like about social media, and what is it that you use Twitter to your advantage over there as a Fort Loramie Redskin doctor?
All righty, Ken. My first tweet that I sent out said that I was joining Twitter to educate, inform, and entertain, or irritate, agitate, and aggravate. And I think I've managed to do all of those things in the 2 years I've been on it. But I see Twitter, if used correctly, as a platform, for me anyway, as a physician, where I can put out educational materials for patients and other followers from places like the Cleveland Clinic or Johns Hopkins on different diseases and whatnot, that if they'll take the time to read them and they're not hard reads. If they take the time to read them, it can have an impact. And I also see it as a form, frankly, of mindless entertainment. It allows me an outlet to support my favorite teams from high school through professional. I'm a numbers guy, so I like tweeting out the stuff about how many games teams have played against each other, averages, little tidbits about games in the past. I just enjoy that, but I'm very careful, or try to be very careful, not to put out any locker room fodder for an opponent. The last thing I need is Carla and Corey taking exception to my tweeting and its impact that it might have on one of their teams.
Well, speaking of the tweeting about the boys and girls teams over there this year, you've had a lot of good things to tweet about them because they're both being very successful. Fort Loramie's got a very experienced boys team, lots of talent over there. Coach Siegel and her girls team, of course, a lot of young talent, very deep in her roster. What do you like about these two teams? How far do you feel that they can go? And what are their limits, if any?
Oh, every team has a limit, and we have to be honest about that. But the boys' team is, from my end of the bench, if you will, the boys' team is gelled this year better than I've seen a team in a long time, or in my time there, I think. I think that their potential is unlimited, and they can take themselves, I believe, as far as they want to go. Now, there's a bunch of other teams that maybe want to have a say in that, but I truly believe that the fellas can go as far as they want to go. I refer to our girls' teams on my tweets as the baby skins. On the opening night, we started a freshman and 3 sophomores. I mean, that's about as young as you can get and put a varsity team on the floor. So they're maturing, they're coming along, they're playing better. They make their mistakes, but they're playing better. And I think that by the end of the season, come tournament time, that we're going to see a really decent young Fort Loramie girls team that has the potential to make a nice tournament run. I mean, if we look at it this way, there's 22 scrimmages to get ready to play the most important 8 games of the season. So, everybody wants to win a league, everybody wants to do well, but, the last 8 games of the year are the most important ones.
Coach, you've been at Fort Loramie, you said 9 years. You've sat through numerous number of basketball games, volleyball games. What is your most memorable moment sitting at the end of that Fort Loramie bench?
Well, thinking about that, one would think that the championship games would come right to the top, and certainly they do. But I'll be very quick about this, but there are 3 things that come to mind very quickly. One of them on the boys' side, and with no disrespect to our own team, this is from a visitor. When Kyle Barnes was a sophomore, he had an absolutely photogenic breakaway dunk at Loramie and came down to defend on the next play, and whistle was blown on one of his teammates. And as he lines up on the foul line, the trainer and I notice he's looking at his elbow, and it's like, what the heck? Well, we then realized that he was bleeding a little bit because he had hit his elbow on the rim dunking the ball. And that's getting off the floor. All right. From the girls' side, one of the most memorable moments, and I think for anyone that was there, was seeing Reggie Brandewee in a brace after rehabbing that torn ACL, determined to get out on that ball floor and play her senior year, enter the game at Lehman. That was phenomenal, and I'll never forget it. And the last thing I'll finish up with this is that Coach Siegel, like all coaches, are not always happy with the play of their team. And I joke with her once in a while that she needs to come and sit down on my end of the bench because the girls don't play nearly as badly from down there. So here a year or so ago, we were playing somebody, I don't remember the opponent, it doesn't really matter. And I'm pretty much into the game. I've got my blinders on. I'm just paying attention. And then I turn to my left, and I see that it's Coach Siegel sitting next to me. And it's like, what are you doing here? And she just smiled and said, they really don't play as badly from your end of the bench. And with that, she got up and walked down to where she normally is. So those are 3 things that stick out and will always stick out in my mind.
Very interesting, Doc. I thought you were going to maybe mention that 2015 championship, but it's funny because we talk to athletes sometime and we ask them similar questions, and they don't so much remember those big games like that as they remember the camaraderie with their teammates or just the interaction with the fans, that kind of thing. So very interesting to hear what you have to say.
Yep.
Hey, one more question before we let you go. And, we've been talking a lot about these big games coming up on Friday and Saturday, between your Fort Loramie Redskins and our Russia Raiders. And Doc, we just think it's one of the best rivalries in the area, maybe in all of sports. You got the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry. You got the Duke-Carolina. I got to ask you, does it get any bigger than Russia Fort Loramie?
Absolutely not. And not coming from this area originally, that didn't make sense to me until I walked into the first Russia-Loramie game at Russia, where the stands are packed. There are people standing in the end lines, and it's like, yeah, this is a big deal.
Yeah.
And you better believe it. I love it.
Yep, and you know what, Doctor? They're typically always very good games, and it's been a great rivalry between the two schools for a long time.
That it has.
So listen, from Craig and I, the Fish Report crew here, we very much appreciate you being on our show tonight. We're followers of you on Twitter. I got to tell you, I'm a big fan of your timeout trivia and also your end of the bench thoughts. So keep them things coming. Kind of fun to read them. I look forward to them when you post them.
Will do, gentlemen. I appreciate the chance to be on tonight. Enjoyed it.
Thanks,
Absolutely.
Doc.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, that was the good Dr. Shelden Wical from Fort Loramie, the team physician. So fun guy to have on the show. And speaking of fun guys, let's go back to the sound room and talk to a couple fun guys in TK and Heavy D. And guys, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Hey,
Well, I know you're real big on New Year's resolutions. Every year you guys probably sit down, I know, on the first day of the year and come up with a lot of probably goals for the year. So I got to ask you, any big goals for this season? Maybe not just on the show, but maybe at life in general. Well, maybe they haven't thought about it, Ken. I don't know. I thought I picked them for a couple guys that would sit down.
Yeah, I come out of a week off every Christmas, and I come into January 1st, and I'm like, you know what, son of a gun, I'm going to hit the treadmill, drink a lot more water, and be more smart about that. It lasts about 3 weeks, and then it goes downhill pretty quick. But this year I bought a calendar, and I got it by the treadmill, and I'm going to start writing dates and miles on it, so we'll see what we can do with that. Target's to drop 2 pounds.
Well, you need to quit hanging out with us if your goal is to maybe diet a little bit and stuff. Because I know our pregame warm up doesn't consist of a whole lot of dieting.
No, it doesn't. I did see the other day though, Heavy D, where if you do anything for 4 weeks, it becomes habit, and it's no longer an issue to get on that treadmill. So carry it out for 1 more week,
right.
and it will be habit, and you'll have it.
We'll give her a shot.
How about you, TK?
Oh, I think I'm going to become a follower of Dr. Wical on Twitter.
There you go.
Great interview. Don't follow the doctor myself. I see him on retweets and get most of his stuff, but I might just dial him up and become a follower and get all of those end of the bench thoughts and in between timeout ideas.
Timeout trivia.
Timeout
Can't beat
trivia. Just to brighten up the evening and see what all he has to offer.
That'd be a great goal. Great goal for
Absolutely.
2018. All right, guys, we'll stay right there because we have one more thing to get to, and that is tonight's poll question. Ken, why don't you read it for our viewers
We're
again?
going to ask our viewers and our listeners tonight, who wins this weekend's battle between the Russia Raiders and the Fort Loramie Redskins? Does Russia win both, Loramie win both, or do they split? Each one wins 1 game. TK, what does our viewers have to say out there on the channel?
The telemetrics are a lot of home cooking there because 67% say Russia's going to take both games.
Nice.
All right.
Well, that's certainly could happen, I guess.
It could happen. Anything could happen. Absolutely, it could happen. So there'll be great games. Russia's on the boys' side, Craig. They're the 4-time defending Shelby County League champions. If my calculations are right, I think they've won 8 straight regular season games against the Fort Loramie Redskins. So that's probably one of the longer streaks that they've had in the history of the rivalry there. So we'll see if they can continue that on Friday night.
And on the girls' side, they actually beat Loramie twice during the regular season last year and once during tournament. I think I commented on the Fish Report website, might be the first time in forever, although I know that's not true, but it may seem like forever. It's been a while, that's for sure, but also sounds like it could be ripe for an upset too, so or a change of tide. We'll see on Friday and Saturday, that's for sure.
Well, we'll definitely be there, Craig. We'll be watching them as well as a lot of other folks from Russia, Fort Loramie, and across the area. It's going to be 2 great games.
All right, and that's going to do it for us tonight. I do want to say special thanks to our guest, Shelden Wical, for joining us on the show. Ken and I and the crew will all be back again next week, same time, same place. Until then, have a great rest of the week, and good night, everyone.
Hanging at the fish report. 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 For your latest news in high school sports, tune in to the fish report. Don't need no bed, don't need no pull when you tune in to the fish report. Hanging at the fish report.